Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Black Americans nationwide are stepping up to help Hurricane Melissa victims in Jamaica. In Philadelphia, the Jamaican consulate says all help is appreciated, but focus should be on what people actually need.
People I have found have such great hearts and always want to help, but sometimes that help involves items we don't necessarily need.
Things like generators, tarps, and hygiene kits are among the items needed most. International aid is pouring into Jamaica after Hurricane Melissa's devastating landfall. Groups like the Red Cross, Project Hope, and Direct Relief are providing food, shelter, and medical care. And Tyler Perry is facing backlash after donating $100,000 to singer and Detroit pastor Marvin Winans. Winans went viral for scolding a church member who gave less than the $2,000 requested during a fundraiser. Perry says he stands by Pastor Winans. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
New Schools for New Orleans is excited to announce that our Katrina 20 exhibit, After the Storm, 20 Years of Change and Progress in New Orleans Public Education, is now open to the public. You can experience this powerful look at how our schools have transformed since Katrina at the New Orleans Public School Library's main branch, 219 Loyola Avenue, during regular business hours, now through December. Bring your friends, family members, students, and colleagues. Looking for a group visit for your school or organization? Email us at info@nsno.org.
Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
New Orleans, and welcome to the Good Morning Show. I'm Will Sutton, and can you believe it? A week has gone by. A week has gone by, day by day by day by day. Monday, Tuesday, hump day, Thursday, and it is Friday. Friday. I know some of you are getting up to start your weekend in a couple of hours, but other folks like me got to head off to work and get some things done. And then the weekend can start. But, of course, we enjoy our weekends in New Orleans, and there's always so much going on. But right now, we are going to kick off the Good Morning Show with all of you all who are listening to WBOK 1230 a.m. on the radio, on the internet, and, of course, our WBOK family of listeners and watchers on the Facebook Live on the station's Facebook page. So it is 7:03 a.m., and we welcome you to another edition of the Good Morning Show, and what a show we have for you today. We've got our friends from the Bureau of Government Research, and they're going to talk with us about those bond measures. As you probably know from previous visits, that they do rather deep research. So these are not the folks you go to for the 30-second soundbite to say, give me a quick answer to tell me what I should know or what I should think or what's my pros and cons. So they do the work and dig in. And so we've got the president and CEO, Rebecca Mowbray, here. And a colleague or two of hers are going to be joining us in a bit. And then we have a special day, a special moment, a special segment as a part of providing you with news and information about the election. We, of course, have 3 runoffs scheduled for November 15th. And the first day of early voting is tomorrow, November 1, and early voting continues through November 8. But today we're going to have the candidates for City Council District A. So these two folks want to succeed City Council member Joe Giarrusso for his seat and on City Council. That's Holly Friedman, and that is Amy McCarron. So we're going to have both of them here for somewhere close to an hour, probably, and we're going to talk with them about their backgrounds, their experiences, how they're seeing what's going on in District A, and of course, how can we avoid looking at the big picture of talking about the city government budget, the deficit, and things related to that. So we do want to ask that those of you who live in District A, and even those who don't, to call ahead with some of your questions so that we can try to include as many of those questions as we can. But it will help a great deal if we have the questions in advance. So we want to make sure you have that WBOK talk line number, 504-582-9422, 504-582-9422. So what I'd ask you to do is to give a ring and provide your name and your district. It would be really helpful if you don't provide your address, but at least give us the street name or intersection or something, so that we'll have some idea of where you're located in District A, and your question. So we'd like to get those between now and 8. And if you have questions during the candidates forum, there will be an option for that, but we know from previous experience it's not likely that we can get all of those questions in live. So if we can get some questions from you ahead of time, that would be great. We have some already, and we'll be sharing those questions and getting the answers from Holly and Amy in a bit. Meanwhile, let's look at some of the news that's been happening. So, of course, you know that the city council asked for a $125 million loan, which had to be approved by the bond commission. That meeting was scheduled for yesterday, but it did not happen. Why did it not happen? Because the governor of this state said, I don't want my bond commission to approve that. Why? Because the governor of this state said he only wants to approve something like that with the assignment of a fiscal administrator to come in and run things in the city. Now, he didn't say it that way, but the reality is, just look at what's happened in Bogalusa. A fiscal administrator essentially means that your mayor becomes a figurehead, and the person running the show is the fiscal administrator, who makes decisions about existing contracts, upcoming contracts, makes decisions about how money will be spent, where it won't be spent, and essentially taking over, my point of view, the executive and legislative branches of government. So our city council decided that that was a bridge too far, to use the cliche, and they withdrew the request. And so now they're looking at tapping the rainy day fund. Rainy day funds are to be there as backup. They're not traditionally supposed to be used for, I want this, so I'm going to tap into the rainy day fund. But there's about $37 million in that fund, and it can only be used under very specific circumstances based on the city charter, and you need 2/3 of the city council to agree to the circumstances and the amount of money. So one of the things that's been happening because the story is moving so quickly is city council members, mayor's office, and others have been talking about what can be done without this loan. And my colleagues, Blake Patterson and Sophie Kasakov, went to the phones and visits to talk with city council members, and at least 5 of them, Leslie Harris from District B, Joe Giarrusso from A, Eugene Green from D, Oliver Thomas from E, and City Council at Large, currently the City Council President, J.P. Morrell, said they'd be willing to dip into the fund. So that's 5 of 7. So that would give you a 2/3 vote. But that doesn't mean they would agree on the amount and for the purposes. So that's something that would have to be determined. But it seems like we're headed toward tapping that rainy day fund so that we can cover our payroll through the end of the year. And but this is something that a city council vice president, Helena Moreno, now the mayor-elect, has said previously that she did not like that idea. So, so maybe this circumstance changes her thinking about that. Maybe it doesn't. She will be moving from the legislative body to the executive branch of government to lead this wonderful city. And so things do change. When your seats change, you're responsible for different things. The city council budget chair, Joe Giarrusso, is saying that it would be a good argument that the city is facing an economic downturn, which is one of the circumstances that can trigger the city charter exception for tapping into that rainy day fund. Now, I have to say, $125 million loan, or $100 million loan, or $100,000 million loan, or a $10,000 loan. If you're asking me for the money, I want to know what the money is for. And I'm not sure that was clear. And I think we need some more information about what that money would have been used for specifically, and how much of it would be to cover payroll. Because I'm pretty sure we don't need $125 million to cover payroll between now and the end of the year. So that's going to be an ongoing thing. We'll have developments day by day to see how we're going to get out of this. How are we going to get out of this with the millions of dollars that we have in deficit? Want to tell you about a incident last night. We had a fatal hit and run last night. This was over at Prytania and Third Streets. One person was declared dead, and the other was rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. And this happened, or at least police were called, about 10:54 p.m. So some of you, like me, were probably in bed or drowsy. These 2 people who were struck by a vehicle at the scene, but didn't stay there. So not really sure how about more specifics. This is a developing story. They were hit by a vehicle. One of them was declared dead by paramedics, and the other was taken to the hospital. So clearly there's some other information that we would like to know. And this was after a hit and run on Sheffman Tour just about an hour before that one. And that one killed a person. So those stories will be developing today as we get more information from the police about what happened there. And we have some big news. We are WBOK 1230 AM, WBOK Media, Equity Media, headquartered and based right here on the beautiful South Campus of Xavier University. Well, there was some big news out of Xavier University yesterday as the university laid off close to 50 employees. The short, skinny reason is difficult but necessary. Difficult but necessary to move the school's financial health, keep the school financially healthy amid a number of federal cuts. So Xavier is the only historically black Catholic university in the nation, has about 3,200 students. And one of the things that's happened with the federal government changes is it doesn't affect just public universities, public colleges. It also affects colleges and universities that are private. So that can include and has included canceling, delaying research grants, which bring in quite a bit of money, and student loan changes. So with those student loan changes, the university, Xavier University, has seen a need to make these cuts because of money that is allocated based on the number of students. So that money is not there or not going to be there. There were signals earlier in the year, in the summer, and then in the late summer, that some budget cuts might be coming. And there are people who were told just yesterday that they no longer have a job. So there are different situations. We don't know how everybody's situation is being handled. Some people know that they don't have a job, but they'll be paid and they'll get health insurance through the end of the semester or through the end of the year. But what happens after that is uncertain. Those circumstances might be different for some others who work at the campus. But we're talking about 6% of the university's workforce. And that is a pretty big deal for those who have come to rely on the faculty, staff, services that are provided by some of the people who the university is cutting ties with. And so that is a disturbing trend. It's now hit New Orleans, specifically Xavier University, and other higher education institutions will have to worry about things like this as well. So that is also a developing story. There'll be more on that as journalists continue to look into what happened and how this might change, if not. But I do want to take note that, Xavier University is not the least expensive institution, but they work hard on having a diversity of students. Yes, it's an HBCU, but there are a number of low-income students who attend Xavier University and other private institutions, and these student loans are part of how they are able to do that. So stay tuned for that. There'll be more information about that to come through the day, and we'll be sharing some other things with you throughout the show. But right now, we're going to be going to break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking with our friends from the Bureau of Government Research. So that's going to be after the break. It's 7:19. You got somewhere to be at 7:20. I hope it's on the other side of the bed. Otherwise, you got till 7:30 or so. Take it easy out there. It's a little brisk and breezy, a little chilly, maybe some people say cold. So prepare for that as you get ready to head out for your day. You're listening to WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about. all day long.
Good morning and happy Halloween. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at this morning's top stories. Another bombshell move by LSU. Last night, the university announced it is parting ways with athletic director Scott Woodward. He was hired in 2019 and went on to hire Kim Mulkey as the women's head basketball coach and Jay Johnson as the baseball coach. Both have since won national championships for the Tigers. Woodward's buyout is just under $6.5 million. The university is expected to discuss the abrupt parting of ways later this morning in Baton Rouge. Then a reminder to drive safe and be aware of your surroundings tonight, as many children will be out trick-or-treating. This as the NOPD investigates 2 deadly hit and runs. The most recent happened just before 11 p.m. near the corner of 3rd Street and Britannia. We're told 2 people were hit there. One died at the scene. The other was taken to a local hospital. The car involved fled the scene. And about 2 hours before that, a man was hit and killed by a car on Chef Mentor Highway near Bundy Road in the east. The NOPD says the driver also fled the scene there. If you have any information on either case, call Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. And lastly, a celebration of life will be held tomorrow night at the Orpheum in honor of the late Anne Rice. The Interview with the Vampire author died in 2021, and her son says he has spent 4 years planning this event. That's a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News. Have a great Halloween and a great week.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat. Electric vehicles are gaining in popularity, but some people are still holding out because of range anxiety. The fear that you could end up stranded with no place to charge your car. And that fear is multiplied for big companies and could be what's stopping them from electrifying their fleets. Enter SparkCharge. It's a company founded by Joshua Aviv that bridges the gap between the existing electrical grid and the needs of a big company with an electrified fleet.
What we realize is that fleets, they'll incorporate 50 cars, they'll incorporate 20 cars, but then they'll have the issue of going to the grid and saying, hey, we want to get these cars electrified, but the grid can't handle the demand of all these vehicles. And so we show up, we get them up and going with our mobile battery chargers, which means they're charging from a giant battery connected to charging stations, and then they're able to get up and running a lot quicker.
Aviv is a young black entrepreneur who founded SparkCharge from his college dorm and now can tout Mark Cuban as a major investor. I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
Working as a dedicated Fidelity advisor, I always ask, what's important to you? I'll look at those priorities and goals alongside your full financial picture to build a comprehensive plan designed to help grow and protect your wealth. With proactive portfolio insights and an eye on taxes, I'm here to help you make the most of your money. I'm Laura Maxwell, and I'm a dedicated Fidelity advisor. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC, member NYSE, SIPC.
Lowe's knows you want to spend less time shopping and more time on the job site. Bulk savings on trusted brands means big savings and more time on the job. Get up to 25% off select drywall when you buy in bulk. Buy more and save to make sure you're prepared for any job. Lowe's, we help, you save. Selection varies by location.
New Orleans never sleeps, and neither does WBOK. Now, every voice, every moment, and every show is in your pocket. Search WBOK Media wherever you get podcasts. Download, share, rate us 5 stars. Because when you support us, you amplify Black voices and the New Orleans culture.
A message from the community scientist. Do you live or work in St. James, St. John, St. Charles, Ascension, Calcasieu, Baton Rouge, or St. Bernard Parish? You may be exposed to harmful chemicals like phthalates, BPA, and flame retardants found in everyday products but linked to serious health risks. That's why the Community Scientist, a program of Rise St. James, brings you clear, science-based facts that protect your health and our environment. Stay informed, stay empowered. Visit risestjames.org today.
You've got responsibilities, but that doesn't mean your dreams are on hold. At Southern University at New Orleans, our evening and weekend college is designed with your life in mind. Finish your degree. Start a new one. On your time, your degree, your schedule. No excuses, just opportunity. Visit suno.edu and make your next move today.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Good morning, wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Well, good morning, New Orleans, and welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Happy to be with you today. My name is Will Sutton. I'm flying solo on this side of the table, but not really, because the GM, the big man, is behind the glass, taking care of business, doing that, running the board, making sure the phone's in shape, making sure all the tech is working, and, of course, we're with you as well. So we've got our friends from the Bureau of Government Research here today, and we're going to be talking about the charter amendment for the city attorney and the three big bond measures that would total, I think it's $510 million. That's right. For all three. So that's anytime you're talking about that kind of money, it's a real good idea to talk about, well, what is this for? People always want to know, is this a tax increase? People always want to know what types of things would this cover? When does it kick in? Is this replacing something? So welcome, Becky. Welcome, Stephen. Thank you for coming back to the Good Morning Show. And thank you so much for coming to talk about some pretty important issues. And happy to have you back again.
Thank you for inviting us, Will. It's always a pleasure to start our day with WBOK.
All right, wonderful. So let's hop into this charter amendment. For starters, let's give a little background about why this is even on the ballot, how the city has been operating. As you both know, this has been something that has been sometimes controversial, sometimes contentious in various administrations of the mayor's office and city council. But there's a reason it was set up the way it was set up. But now we have a measure that would change that. What are we looking at?
That's right. Well, so as you know, the city attorney position, it's the top lawyer for the city. And the city attorney is supposed to represent the city as a whole, meaning all branches of government. And even as the mayor traditionally appoints the city attorney and the job resides in the executive branch, they provide legal opinions that affect all branches of government. And as you and WBOK listeners know, there were a lot of clashes between the mayor and city council in recent years. And there was a feeling, there was a frustration on the council that they felt that the city attorney was more often representing the mayor, and that it wasn't right to, maybe be taking a position in support of one branch of government against another. And so they wanted to introduce this charter change to really affirm and just draw attention to the idea that the city attorney is supposed to represent the city as a whole and to confirm their independence, the independence of the office. Sometimes they have to give difficult advice and take positions that maybe are not always popular and things like that. And ensure that you're not going to have these interbranch conflicts, and that the city attorney can't take one side versus another, that you'd have to go to outside counsel or go to other means if you had a dispute between two branches of government.
The mayor would still hire the city attorney. Mm-hmm. The city attorney would report to the mayor in terms of a direct report. Mm-hmm. But unlike some other direct reports to the mayor, this person would be responsible for reporting to advising the mayor and city council, which is the theory of the job now. I think that's how we've been operating, but different mayors and city attorneys have looked at it in different ways. Is that
This
correct?
is a job where you need to have a thick skin. I mean, you're gonna often be in contentious positions, and yes, but it does say in the charter right now that the city attorney represents the city as a whole, capital C, like the city as a corporation. So it doesn't actually change anything, and um, the the concern, so I may be jumping ahead a little bit,
No, no,
but
no,
but
that's
the
okay.
but BGR came out against this proposal for a couple of reasons. We felt like at the end of the day, it wasn't really necessary because it already says it in the charter, and professional ethics for lawyers say that you can't represent two sides of a dispute. That's already barred and would be a good practice for an attorney to be following, or I mean, it's required. You could find yourself the subject of a complaint, a legal ethics complaint, if you weren't following that. So we felt like it really wasn't necessary because it already says it. And if the goal of this charter change was to protect the independence of the city attorney's office, we felt like it didn't really move the needle on that.
Right.
And
There
moreover,
have been other proposals about how to change it, and it would be a more clear change, but that's not what's before the voters now.
it's not what's before the voters. And then also, there were kind of two other things that stood out to us in the analysis. One is that you may recall, Will, that in 2022, voters passed a charter change that said that now the city council needs to confirm
Yes.
whenever the mayor appoints heads of departments that are listed in the city charter, and the city attorney is one of them. So they already have to go before, like a future city attorney already has to go before the council to get confirmed. And so far since 2022, that that process has only been used when Ann Kirkpatrick was hired as police chief and the new DPW director was hired. So there's already this vehicle through the confirmation process where the council is going to be able to ask the proposed city attorney, who do you represent? And in fact, folks on the council have said the very first question that they're going to ask is, you want this job, who do you represent? And the correct answer is, I will represent both, and I am required to represent both.
Right.
And that means that I need to do A, B, C, D, and I won't do E, F, G on in that role.
So I hear what you're saying, and this, if voters approve this would be effective January 13th, the day after the mayor is sworn in.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the mayor has a lot of decisions to make about big jobs, so can't wait until January 12th to start that process. So our transition team is already underway. And the big job, CAO, has been advertised, and now the city attorney job has been advertised. If you are someone interested in that city attorney's job, would you likely be favoring the passage of this amendment, or would you likely be opposing it as a candidate who is, let's say, not political, but looking to serve the public in a very important legal role? What do you think?
Well, it's difficult to say what a candidate might be thinking, but in their current duties that are defined in the charter and under the state professional ethics rules, they have to do pretty much everything that is required in this charter amendment already. Their client is the city of New Orleans. They have to provide regular consultation to the mayor and the council. They have to step back when appropriate from when there are conflicts between the branches. So the charter and the rules that are established by the Louisiana Supreme Court, those lay out in very much detail how the city attorney should act. And so going into the job, a candidate who, under the charter, has to be an experienced practicing attorney, they should already know what the expectations are for how they represent the mayor and the council in this environment. One piece of the charter amendment that's not in the rules, that's a new addition, would be this provision that allows the city council to block the firing of the city attorney by the mayor.
Going to be my next point.
With a supermajority vote. So there's a clause in the charter amendment that would provide, if the mayor moves to fire the city attorney, that if the council determines that there is not valid cause, or if the mayor is acting with a reason that conflicts with the independence provisions in this charter amendment, that the council could step in and block the firing in that scenario. So that's a new thing that is not in the current charter that would be added.
Right, and that seems, to me, it seems like that's the significant change from what's in the charter. Everything else seems to be there.
Yes.
And this would be a different situation where in any operation, even yours, if there was a situation where you go through whatever personnel processes over time, make a determination, it's best that we part our ways. In other words, you're going to leave. We're going to keep doing our work. But then another body decides, no, we want to keep the person. That's going to be kind of a tense, weird relationship. And wouldn't that person be more likely to try to respect the charter with representing both, but then lean towards city council, because city council essentially put them back in the job?
And that's one of the uncertainties surrounding this provision. Another would be if the council does successfully block the mayor's removal of the city attorney, that attorney would have to go back into a potentially hostile working environment in which the mayor has already expressed a lack of confidence in them, and so practically it's hard to say how all that would play out, but it raises some questions. Also, the interpretation of what valid cause might mean could be different between the mayor and the council, and that could lead to new conflicts between the two.
Right. Well, I have more things about that, but I want to make sure we have time to go to the bond measures. You're listening to WBOK 1230 AM, the Good Morning Show. I'm Will Sutton, and we're in conversation with Becky Mowbray, the president and CEO of BGR, and we're listening to Stephen Stewart, who's senior vice president and research director at BGR. We've been talking about the city charter amendment that would change, to some degree, the role of the city attorney. BGR's stance on that is no, vote against it, and you can find lots of more information about that proposed charter amendment, as well as what we're about to talk about next. So that's bgr.org if you want to go look while we're online and in studio talking about this. So let's talk about the money, $510 million. And one of the things that I want to clarify is that this was headed toward this election ballot before the recent discovery of how bad things are. So this was already lined up and coming down the pike. This is not directly tied to what's going on, but it is about the future funding of city services and city projects. Is that correct?
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up, Will. You're making a very important distinction. So, you know, city officials have been working on plans for this bond issue for like at least a year and a half. And this is we'll talk more in detail about what the proposals are and things, but it's money for capital projects and equipment and things like that that are sort of long-term things, long-term investments that would meet many of the quality of life concerns, the broken roads, water pipes, things like that, that residents face. Whereas the discussion that we're hearing and the headlines that we're seeing every day in the paper about the city's finances, that has to do with their operating budget, like how they pay for day-to-day operations of the city, and a big hole in that budget right now, and then planning for the regular operating budget for 2026. So they're kind of two separate things. And that's, I'm really glad you brought it up because it's really confusing for everybody, right? That, one is about just the operations of the city, and the other is about raising the money to make long-term investments in kind of durable goods, if you will. And they're different, and it would be easy for people to, get nervous about the, all the negative headlines they're seeing about the city's finances, but they're pretty different.
And this would be on the ballot no matter who was elected mayor and no matter who was elected to city council?
Yes, that's right. It's the city council moved earlier this year to place it on the November 15th ballot.
Okay. All right. So what are we looking at? We've got three. Why do we have three? How come we just can't have one?
Well, the city did. The last time voters dealt with bonds, they did use one proposition. This was back in 2019. Seems like a long time ago before the pandemic, but but the 2019 bond authorization was for $500 million, and that included a very broad list of projects that are actually similar to the ones that the voters will deal with this time around. As Becky mentioned, infrastructure, drainage, affordable housing. What the council is doing right now is that they've divided up the propositions into three. So you have $415 million for city infrastructure, which is your streets and buildings and city equipment. You have $50 million for drainage and stormwater management, and then $45 million for affordable housing. And those propositions, the council has taken additional steps with the administration to develop specific uses that are a little more defined than what voters considered back in 2019. So this is a significant distinction that people should be aware of. In the city infrastructure and the drainage propositions, the city council has approved project lists that lay out specific projects across the city in each one of those areas. And those project lists are tied to the bond resolution. So what happens going forward is that each time the city would like to amend the project list, they have to go back through the council's Public Works Committee to have a public hearing and ultimately council approval of that amendment. The project lists provide a greater sense of transparency and accountability for the bonds. One thing they don't have in them specified are dollar amounts. So the project lists do not include the amounts of bond funding that each project would get or the project cost. That's separate information that the city has been estimating, and we analyze that in BGR's report. They're not included in the project list to provide flexibility for the council and the city administration as estimates change, amounts of money change, project scopes change, to kind of maintain that flexibility to keep spending down the money in a timely fashion. So those were those project lists BGR thought were two significant advantages of the city infrastructure and the stormwater propositions. On the affordable housing, there's not a project list. However, the city has expressed the intent in conversations with BGR and others to direct this money to the Housing Trust Fund. And that Housing Trust Fund by city ordinance has a defined process for how spending decisions are made, how accountability is established, and how the funds are administered.
So there are some housing advocates who don't always agree with you about affordable housing issues, but they agree with you that this should be rejected. How is that?
Yes, the housing advocates and BGR arrived at the same position on this, that while housing affordability is, of course, a major issue facing the city, and it's a reasonable thing for the city to be getting involved to try to solve that and things like that. We had concerns, and I think the housing advocates also had the concerns that so the Housing Trust Fund that voters created last year, it requires an annual dedication that is equivalent to 2% of the city's general fund budget. The first required investment in this Housing Trust Fund, would begin for January 1, 2026, for the 2026 budget. And it's estimated to cost about $14.5 million. And we had concerns that the city wants to use the bond money to pay for that, which is, now that it's in the city charter, it's an annual recurring expenditure. And the housing advocates also felt that, now that it's an ongoing expense, it should be, paid for in a sustainable way. What the city wants to do instead is use the bond money to cover that $14.5 million. And that could change, every year depending on the size of the budget, but that's what it is next year. So we saw three main problems with that. One is that it's really only a short-term fix, that the bond proposal for affordable housing would raise $45 million. It's 14.5 that's the annual contribution. So the most that you can get out of this is 3 years, and they don't have, and then they need to figure out another way to make this investment every year. And we feel like there should be more of a plan, and that they should just be able to, find a way to cover it as a recurring. You shouldn't be using one-time money to pay for recurring expenses. The second issue we had with it is that it's really an incomplete solution, in that bond money has to go to things that are going to be with us for at least 10 years. And a certain amount of the Housing Trust Fund dedication has to go to like operating costs and overhead and some things like that. Well, you can't pay for that with bond money. So even if you try to swing it in, it doesn't cover everything, and it's going to end up being kind of a piecemeal thing. And then the third thing, and perhaps the most important, is that it's a really expensive way to pay for this now annual obligation that voters created last year. And over the 30-year life of these bonds, if they finance the $14.5 million, that's going to end up costing taxpayers $24.1 million over the life of the investment. And that's just, there's a more productive way to use the money. So we were pretty concerned about that, and that's why we came to a no position.
So you are in favor of one, in favor of a second, and opposed to a third.
We are in favor of the infrastructure one. We are in favor of the drainage bond proposal. I want to say with both of those, though, we do strongly recommend that, number one, the city develop an externally facing dashboard that would help voters to see where the money's going. Even though we
I thought
like
that was a particularly important point of why you're supporting it. It's like we're supporting this, but we'd like to see this happen.
We want to
Yeah.
see more. Like
Yeah, right.
as Stephen was talking about, they've got the project list. That's terrific. It's very well targeted. It's very specific. The council would need to weigh in if they wanted to make a change, so voters can trust that this is the money's going to go where they say it's going to go. Or if they need to make a change, then it's going to need to go before the council, and you'll have an opportunity to weigh in on that. But they can be more transparent about, by building a public-facing dashboard. And we also note, as you know, Will, the city really doesn't do a good job with paying to maintain public assets like streets and buildings. And we are calling upon the city that in hand in hand with this bond issue to start moving the needle on actually paying the true costs of maintaining public assets. Because if they're not paying for maintaining streets and maintaining drainage and things like that, then the public's going to be paying for something over the course of 30 years, but we're not going to get 30 years of use out of that. And if they don't work to seal cracks on roads and things like that, we're going to have potholes again. You might get 10 years, 10, 12, 15 years out of it. That's it. And so we feel like this bond issue is an important opportunity for the city to start showing that they'll actually maintain those assets.
All right, so let's talk about some of the confusion that is going on with what's going on right now to cover payroll, and how do we deal with this deficit, this being scheduled for the November 15th ballot, no matter what else was going on. But what if voters say, this is just too much, it's just too much, I'm just going to vote no? What if voters vote no on each of these things and it's rejected? What happens?
So the reason why the council and the mayor's office, the current mayor's office, worked to put this together is because they recognized that it's really important that this investment continue. Some of the major complaints of residents of New Orleans are the sorry state of infrastructure on things, and the fact that your home or business might flood, or your car might flood when you're trying to get to and from work or pick up your kids from school. And so the council and our current mayor felt strongly that you needed to have the resources to keep work going. And if voters say no to these things, it probably wouldn't be until 2027 that they could come back to voters to ask again. So you'd have an interruption in the flow of work to make what's regarded as very core improvements in our city.
And I'd also just add to that the bonds are paid by a dedicated tax that New Orleanians already pay. There's a debt service tax that is on your property tax bill, and it's currently 14.5 mils. And that tax is dedicated just to pay bond debt on capital bonds that the city has issued. So the money that homeowners and business owners pay to the city for this debt service tax really goes straight to these bonds. It's separate from the city's operating budget, as Becky mentioned early on, that those are different revenue streams that are certainly at issue right now, and the city's trying to figure out how to plug that budget deficit. But the actual repayment source for the bond debt is a dedicated tax of 14.5 mils currently, and that tax is set every year based on how much principal and interest is owed on the bonds. So the way the city has structured this bond proposition is that they went with $510 million because that was the amount of money that they could borrow without having to do an immediate increase in the tax for the debt service.
So, again, concerned voter, interested in effective administration of the city, want to know that people are handling city taxpayer money in the best way possible. They feel like they go to the polls all the time to be voting on one thing or another, and it really concerns them when they're voting on money things. They were convinced to the vote in 2019. Okay, it sounds right. I've looked at some of the information. I'm going to trust that they're going to do the right thing. How can they look at what has been done with their vote on the 2019 bond and as a part of considering whether they want to support this one?
Well, as part of our research on the bond propositions, BGR also did a look back at the 2019 bond authorization. So we have a report on our website. It's called Beyond the Ballot. It looks at the 2019 authorization and what that yielded in terms of how much capital money the city was able to raise and where the money went. And so our report shows that those dollars that voters invested over the past several years have gone to significant improvements. I mean, certainly New Orleans has a lot of needs in streets and buildings and drainage, but that $500 million, funded a number of street projects and facility renovations, as well as community initiatives, such as the settlement of the Gordon Plaza litigation and the buyout of those residents' homes there, and a number of other neighborhood projects that are supporting redevelopment in different places in the city. So our report, it found that that we were able to track all of the dollars that the city spent, and the city maintained accounting and records for that. We made recommendations in that report that are similar to the ones that Becky mentioned, chief among them being, finding ways to increase maintenance funding, that these are new assets that you've invested in over the past, 5 or 6 years. Increasing the amount of money that is directed in the city's operating budget toward maintenance is going to be important to make sure that residents get the maximum value out of these new assets. And we also called for the greater transparency for kind of with this public dashboard idea to help citizens understand where their dollars are going over time. A lot of these, but what happens over time is as projects change and priorities change in city government, the city council will reallocate money. They'll say, well, this project is not as big of a priority anymore. Or maybe we don't need as much money for this. Let's reroute it to something else that we can invest in. And those can be tracked over time. It's all public record in the city ordinances, in the city council actions. But for citizens who are busy, and we felt that the city should take the extra step and develop a dashboard that brings it all together and can help people, with a few clicks of their mouse to understand where their money is going.
Okay, so when early voting starts tomorrow, November 1.
That's right.
And some people like to vote on Election Day on November 15th. What are they looking for on their ballot so that they can know that they're voting on the right thing, whether they're saying yes or no? What are they looking for? What is the proposition number? How are they going to know if it's yes or no? What are they going to see?
So on their ballot, depending on where they live, of course,
Right.
they'll see their elected official elections. That'll be the runoffs.
Clerk,
and
citywide,
clerk, all of those.
District A for City Council and District E. And then there are some smaller other things, but yeah.
But they'll see 3 bond propositions, and they're numbered with affordable housing as Proposition 1, city infrastructure as 2, and drainage as 3. And then they'll see the city attorney charter amendment that we mentioned earlier.
Okay. All right. In closing, how can people learn more than you had time for today?
Sure.
I guess they can visit the site, but where on the site should they go? And give that website again.
Sure. Thanks, Will. Our website is bgr.org, and our election work is right on the homepage, and there's the full report. about the bond issues and about the city attorney proposal, but there's also a news release and an executive summary, and I think we'll probably have a PowerPoint presentation up there soon. And we've also started translating some of our reports into Spanish. I think that will be up there soon. And so, yeah, there are lots of ways that voters can read about this if they want to find out more. But I think the most important thing is that people, plan to turn out to vote, whether it's early voting or on November 15th. I think there was a lot of concern after so many of the slots for mayor and sheriff and several of the council slots were all filled on October 11th. I think there's a lot of concern that everybody's moved on and this could end up being a low turnout election.
Right.
But this is really important. It's $510 million that, is before voters with the question of, do you want to spend this money or not?
Okay. Well, thank you all so much for getting up early and coming to WBOK to talk about these very important issues. There are opportunities for our voters to vote for people, depending on where they live. But this is about the financial health of the city and the who represents the city via the mayor and city council with the city attorney's position. Thank you for sharing your perspective. Thank you for all the research that you do as an ongoing basis to be able to reach these conclusions and always looking back to see how did we do. Appreciate that. I've been looking almost daily because I like how you've broken it apart, and so it depends on how much time I have. I can go back, and it's something I've read already, but I read it again so I can remember something about it. So really appreciate your taking this opportunity to join us today. We'll be looking to see what happens, but we hope that everybody will use this information and vote whatever way you choose. You're listening to WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome back to the Good Morning Show. We just had a very fruitful conversation with Becky Mowbray, the president and CEO of BGR, and Stephen Stewart, senior vice president and research director at BGR, talking about the city attorney charter amendment that's on the ballot, and also the $510 million of on the three separate bond measures that's on the ballot as well. Right now, we're going to take a call. We've got Mr. Devontae King on the line. Good morning, good morning, good morning, my brother. How are you?
Morning. I'm great. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, shake up our world. Tell us something good.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I am launching some new projects that are titled after my book, Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness, White Psychopathology, Collective Psychosis, and Trauma in America. And so the book came out earlier this year. I think I spoke to Dr. Ashante Wyatt.
Yeah, we were both here when you were talking about that. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
That's right. That's right. And of course, you might remember that she has a big job as vice chancellor at Southern University at New Orleans now. So that's why she's not here today.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It is.
That
It
great.
is. Yeah. I mean, really big job. Great job helping former state senator Joe Bowie, who's the new chancellor at Southern University, New Orleans. And he called on her and said, I need your help. I need your brains, need your talent, need your energy. So that's where she is.
Well, that is great. Please tell her I said hello and give her my best.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, I've got the Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness video series that if you go to my website at DanteKing.com, you'll see a 10-part episodic video series where we're discussing all of the themes that are in my book and really taking a deep dive into understanding how whiteness is a political function. White people are part of a political organization, and it was formed on the basis of, locating power, privilege, entitlement to that political organization. And so we've seen that happening over and over and over again. And we're also unpacking kind of the psychological impacts and effects of what it means to when you go out to dominate people in the world because you consider them different and you assert that they don't have any soul, that they're not human, that is a form of cognitive distortion that leads people to then do things that are violent, to become morally averse, that there is an incapacity or the capacity, rather, to rename violence as virtue, colonization as civilization, enslavement as enterprise, segregation as order, genocide as salvation. And so we're dealing with people, and we can see in this very moment that these people are very predatory in their nature, not just towards non-white people, towards each other as well. But it is mostly severe when it is aimed at people who are considered black and brown.
Wow. So when is that available now?
Oh, well, so my book is available, Diagnosing Whiteness and Anti-Blackness.
Right.
That is available now, and then the video series is up on my site right now as well. If you go to DanteKing.com, you can locate it.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So you're always shaking things up and making us think. We appreciate your joining us to tell us about that opportunity. We're going to have you back. We're going to spend a little bit more time diving into some of these things. Really enjoyed that conversation with you, with Dr. Wyatt some weeks back. So when will you be in New Orleans?
That's a great question. I'm hoping to get there sometime at the beginning of the year. I always love coming there, but we have some things lined up where I hope to be on a speaking tour pretty soon, and I hope that is one of the places where I'll be making my rounds. So
wonderful.
It'd be great to come into the studio.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your checking in with us, giving us the update. And please let us know when you're going to be in town, and maybe we can do this in person.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me again.
Absolutely. Have a blessed day.
You too.
All right.
Bye-bye.
This is the Good Morning Show, WBOK, 1230 a.m. I am Will Sutton. The talk line is 504-582-9422, 504-582-9422. We're going to be going to break, and after that, we are going to be talking with Holly Friedman and Amy McCarron. They both want to succeed Councilman Joe DeRusso to represent District A. We have got them together here this morning only at WBOK. Hear what they have to say about their backgrounds and experiences. Hear them answer some questions. And we're going to get in a few of your questions as well. That talk line is 504-582-9422. You know somebody who lives in District A, go ahead and give them a call or share the link off of our Facebook page so you can tune in. They're going to be in the studio in just a few minutes. WBOK, 1230 a.m., what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
Here's the latest episode of our political theater. Governor Jeff Landry, who fancies himself as a disciple to President Donald Trump, was smacked down a few days ago by the New Orleans City Council in his attempt to take over city finances. With the city of New Orleans facing a potentially devastating $160 million budget deficit, the City Council had requested that the State Bond Commission approve a bridge loan to cover the city payroll through the end of the year. Now, the loan wouldn't cost taxpayers or the state any money. The city would use existing revenues to repay the loan come January. In his argument against the loan, Governor Landry contends the city needs to learn a lesson to fix its own financial problem rather than rely on state-backed debt. The governor and the state attorney general, however, demanded that the city of New Orleans install a state-appointed fiscal administrator to run the city's finances in exchange for the loan. The city council says that will never happen and has now withdrawn its loan request approval from the Bond Commission. Critics accuse the governor of using the New Orleans financial crisis as a power grab to get his hands on city finances. And it should escape no one that the city of New Orleans accounts for 23% of the state of Louisiana's budget. Now imagine that revenue in the authoritarian hands of our wannabe authoritarian governor. Perhaps I'm overthinking the governor's intentions, but power grab or not, his position to oppose a sound fiscal request from the city council appears to be a jackass move to me. This is Norman Robinson, Off the Top.
Are you passionate about community safety and police accountability? Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Get the facts and stay informed. We're breaking down complex issues, highlighting community voices, and holding people behind the badge accountable. Join us for an informative hour every Friday at noon on WBOK. Your city, your police, your show. The Monitor's Mic.
Meet Leanna, a part-time chef and full-time mom. In the past, Leanna didn't have health insurance because she didn't think she could afford it. What she didn't realize is she qualified for Medicaid. She loves the coverage and peace of mind that comes with high-quality care. The kind of care you get with Healthy Blue. This is Medicaid, and it's for more people than you think. Maybe even you. To see if you qualify, go to myhealthybluela.com.
Saints of God, it's time for us to tell you the truth. It's time for you to start your 21-day challenge. Don't take another day. Do it right now. Call 504-701-4711. That's the Whole Water Stove, Pastor David Impartian Sr., the host of Change Your Water, Change Your Mind. This is the water that's designed to change your body, the way you think, the way you act, and the way you look. Why don't you start your 21-day challenge today? For $35, you can start it right now. Call me so we can set up your appointment. 504-701-4711. That's 504-701-4711. Change your water, change your mind.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
WBOK New Orleans, home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Florida is stepping up after Hurricane Melissa devastated Jamaica. Orlando attorney Dan Newlin is flying 3 planes of supplies to Kingston with reggae star Shaggy, who joins in Miami.
If the people are saying, Dan, can you bring more? Can you get more stuff? Then we will fly up, load up, and continue to make flights down.
Newlin says he'll also bring home stranded American tourists. AI-generated videos mocking black women have gone viral on TikTok, sparking outrage. The clips, made with OpenAI's Sora tool, show women yelling about EBT cards in exaggerated scenarios, reinforcing harmful stereotypes. Critics call the trend racist and dangerous. And Drake plans to appeal after a judge dismissed his lawsuit over Kendrick Lamar's hit Not Like Us. Drake sued Universal Music Group, claiming the song sparked memes and jokes at his expense. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
New Schools for New Orleans is excited to announce that our Katrina 20 exhibit, After the Storm, 20 Years of Change and Progress in New Orleans Public Education, is now open to the public. You can experience this powerful look at how our schools have transformed since Katrina at the New Orleans Public School Library's main branch, 219 Loyola Avenue, during regular business hours, now through December. Bring your friends, family members, students, and colleagues. Looking for a group visit for your school or organization? Email us at info@nsno.org.
Good morning. Wake up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK. Show. This is WBOK 1230 AM. I'm Will Sutton, and behind the glass is Justin, holding it down, keeping us in track, making sure we're checking on the mics and the tech. So I think we are ready to go. So I told you earlier, I told you yesterday we would have a special show today, and we do. So you know, if you've been paying attention, that we had mayoral, city council, sheriff, assessor, and clerk elections held on October 11th. The results yielded a mayor-elect, city council vice president, Helena Moreno. Several city council members are returning to the city's legislative body with wide re-election wins, and city council member Leslie Harris won re-election without a challenge. There were wide margin wins for incumbent assessor Errol Williams and sheriff-elect Michelle Woodfork. Left undecided was a tight clerk race and a couple of city council races. We have one citywide election for clerk on this ballot for November 15th, and a couple of city council district races, one for District E and another for District A. Early voting starts on Saturday, November 1, and continues through the 8th. Election day is November 15th, and this election will determine who holds 3 more seats of power. Today, we'll hear from city council candidates who want to follow City Council District A member Joe Giarrusso. Whoever wins will succeed, not replace, a council member who has earned high marks for his legislative knowledge and budget leadership. Joining us today are Amy McCarron and Holly Friedman. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Welcome. Thank you.
All right. So we know you have busy schedules and you appreciate your time. We know we worked at this to try to figure out what day and time might work, but here we are. So first, some ground rules and a little structure for today. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement and 2 minutes closing statement. We will ask questions based on comments and questions from our WBOK listeners and District A constituents, and questions we've developed as well. You will have up to 2 minutes to answer each question, but you don't have to take the full 2 minutes. You're welcome to stop shy of that. And if either of you mentions the other candidate, that person will have at least 30 seconds. Well, no, 30 seconds for a response.
If that doesn't happen, we'll just keep going to the next one. The questions will include questions for both of you and questions for each of you individually. We'll include a round of rapid fire questions. Each answer must be one word, yes or no, unless stated otherwise. If time allows, we will take some few live questions from listeners. And in advance, I ask you to indulge me. I'm doing this solo today. I may have a follow-up question on something, and grant me some grace if I mix up the order of who's next and that kind of thing. We'll figure it out. Everything makes sense?
That's great.
Ready to go?
Yes.
All right. Each of you have an opportunity for a 2-minute opening statement. Whoever goes first now will be the second person to give a closing statement. Whoever goes second will be the first to offer a closing statement. Who wants to go first?
I usually go out first alphabetically.
That's fine. Let's roll.
That's our normal routine.
All right, let's do it.
All right. Well, good morning. Thank you for having me today. I'm Holly Friedman, and I'm running for City Council District A. I want to start by thanking the voters. I won 74% of the precincts in every ward in the primary. So that tells me that my message of a constituent-forward campaign is resonating with the residents of District A. But residents tell me the same thing everywhere I go. We're paying more and more in taxes, and we're getting less city services. We see it in the flooding after a normal rainfall, the broken streets and sidewalks, and the street lights that stay dark, and the city delays when we need help. And now we're facing one of the most significant budget deficits in years, a deficit that threatens basic city services. And here's the hard truth. This budget crisis wasn't a surprise. It was a failure to do the job. City leaders budgeted only $57,000 for overtime when we spent $47 million the year before. They relied on overly optimistic revenue projections and allowed overspending by departments that went unchecked and ignored multiple warning signs, including a BGR report in April of 2025. Those are preventable mistakes, and the job of the council, especially those advising the budget, is to question and verify the numbers and to protect the public from exactly this outcome. And that's where my experience matters. I spent more than 10 years in the criminal justice system, 4 years as an economic crimes investigator, following money, identifying red flags, and demanding answers when the numbers didn't add up. When I see a discrepancy, I don't look the other way, I investigate. I also spent 4 years working for Councilmember Giarrusso as Constituent Services Director. I worked directly with the residents and department heads to solve problems. I'm also earning my master's degree in public administration because leadership today requires understanding how government finances actually work. I'm not a politician. I'm a problem solver. I show up, I listen, and I deliver results. You deserve a council member who will protect your tax dollars like evidence, because they are. And that's exactly how I will serve. I'm Holly Friedman, running for City Council, District A. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Will, for having us. And thank you, WBOK. I'm Amy McCarran, and I'm running for City Council District A because, like you, I love our city. I was born here, I was raised here, and now my husband and I are raising our 6-year-old twins here. I went to Ursuline and Noka, where I studied musical theater. I started working in restaurants when I was 16 years old. I worked as a line cook and worked my way up to catering sales manager for Ralph Brennan Restaurant Group. After that, I became a financial advisor with Prudential here in New Orleans, and I started getting involved in Young Leadership Council during that time. And that's when I met Councilmember Joe Giarrusso. So when he took over as the chair of the Budget Committee, excuse me, he said that he became a lawyer so he didn't have to do math. So he needed someone that had the financial expertise to come help him run the Budget Committee. So for the last 3 years until May this year, I've been his full-time policy and budget director, helping him learn the budget and figure out how to solve our problems. So obviously, we are at a pivotal point in our city where we have a budget crisis, and we are in desperate need of a council member with the financial background and expertise to help us jump in on day one with the new administration to figure this out. I've been endorsed by Council President J.P. Morrell, and he said it best, that my knowledge and deep experience of the budget is urgently needed. And I'm ready to be that 24/7 council member who works for every single neighborhood, not just the wealthy few, not just for special interests, and not for the political insiders who have held this city back. Now is not the time for a general practitioner. Now we need my critical budget experience to help move us forward and create a government that actually functions, is held accountable by strong leadership, and provides the basic functions that we deserve. And I believe I'm the only person in this choice to make that happen. Again, I'm Amy McCarran, running for City Council District A, and I'm number 35.
Thank you. Okay. Now let's continue with some background, some of your history. Those who've been following various campaigns now, they don't have as many to follow. So I would want to provide you with an opportunity to talk a bit about who you are. So you're talking to an audience, this WBOK family of listeners, who have heard regularly from City Council member Joe Giarrusso, but they haven't heard from you. Remind some and inform others who you are. Tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, a bit about your upbringing. And at WBOK, we like to say, who your mama and them. You got 2 minutes. Amy.
Okay, so I went to Ursuline, like I said, and musical theater at NOCA. Sorry, it's like morning.
That's okay.
So my mom was a nurse. She worked at Baptist, Oshner Baptist. Well, it's Oshner Baptist now. She worked at Memorial Medical Center. She was a nurse administrator there for a long time. And my dad worked in the lumber business. He was in sales there. I have a sister and brother. They're twins. So like me, I also have twins, and I have twin sister and brother. They're 5 years younger than me. And then, so look, I started working at restaurants at 16 because my dad said, you know, if you want to drive and have your license, then you got to pay for your own car insurance. So I said, all right, I'll go down the street at Reginelli's in Lakeview and I'll get a job there. So that was my start of the restaurant business. I really, really enjoyed working in the restaurant business, and I worked there for a really long time. I was a line cook at Sunray Grill. I was a line cook at Ralph's on the Park. While earning my degree in hotel, restaurant, and tourism management here in New Orleans. And during that time, you know, working in restaurants is hard work, especially, you know, behind the scenes in the kitchen. You know, I was a saute cook, a grill cook. You know, I learned a lot of experience of really just hard work there. And I really enjoyed it. And then I worked my way up to catering sales manager for Ralph Brennan Restaurant Group. I worked at Baco Restaurant, which is not there anymore. And that's when I started helping, you know, kind of plan and prepare our catering stuff there. We opened up a separate catering business within the restaurant group. And so I helped plan and manage parties for various, you know, groups and for NOMA. So I really enjoyed that time there. And then after that, I became a financial advisor with Prudential. So I was there for about 8 years before joining Joe as his council budget chair. And I really, you know, that was when I really wanted to be more involved in public service, and that's where that comes from. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Holly.
All right, thank you. So I'm originally from Houma, Louisiana. Went to Vanderbilt Catholic High School, and then LSU, and then wanted to move to New Orleans. Wanted to come to where the most exciting city that I knew existed, and I fell in love immediately. Not just with the city and what it offers, but the community and the people. And to me, that's what makes New Orleans special. And so been a homeowner in District A, I think close to 30 years. I was very excited. Met my husband working at the district attorney's office, and we have 2 daughters. They're both away at college now, living their best college lives. They do want to return to New Orleans, but we need to be able to give them that economic opportunity for them to return. But one's a senior in college and one is a junior in college right now. And so my work experience, as I said before, I worked at the district attorney's office as an economic crimes investigator, and then took some time off to raise my young family. Got involved in their school, becoming the parent association president of their school. And so it was a great opportunity. Got to manage their soccer teams and spend a lot of time. And that was a fabulous time that I enjoyed immensely. But then Councilman Giarrusso called at one point and said, I'd really like you to come to work for me and be constituent services director. And I fell in love immediately helping people and the residents of District A with whatever problem they had, and being able to go to them, see their problem on site, taking that problem back to City Hall, meeting with the department heads, and fixing their problem. And that was a great experience to know that I was helping people make government make their lives easier instead of harder. And then I returned to the district attorney's office right now, where I was interim chief of investigations and director of a project called OSINT, and a team member of No Dice.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's continue a bit along that line, but a little something different. So you've mentioned Joe Giarrusso. You both work for Joe Giarrusso. I think people have heard that quite a bit through the campaign, with Joe being who he is. That's a good selling point, that you've been right there. But when did you first meet each other? And when did you first work together? Amy? 2 minutes.
I joined Joe's team in July 2022. Actually, Holly and I worked together on Joe's reelection campaign. So I was part of the kitchen cabinet campaign team. And then when I joined the office in July 2022, Holly was still there as constituent services. She was there part-time. So that's how we met. We had, I guess, 6 months overlap, because I guess you left the office in February 2023. So yeah, we worked together for about 6 months.
Okay. Holly?
Yeah, I'm not sure I have much more to add, but Amy's correct. I was Joe Giarrusso's campaign manager for his reelection. I took a leave of absence from the office at that time, and where Amy helped part of that reelection team. I was working at Joe's office. I did work there part-time, but I also worked there full-time at the end as well. And that's where Amy joined us. I think you said July of 2022? Yeah. And then I left it as correct in February 2023.
Okay. So let's take it another layer off the onion. Since you were colleagues in the District A office, describe your former colleague's best attributes. What do you like most about her? The way she views life and the world, and the way she works. Holly, 2 minutes.
I think Amy has a lovely family life, and I think that she always walked into the office with a smile on her face and ready to get the day started.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, same thing, with Holly. I know she was a good friend to me when I was going through with trying to figure out where my kids could go to school. And she was very helpful with that. We talked through a lot. And there was a time where I was trying to decide whether or not to hold my kids back 1 year. And Holly, actually, we had a great conversation about it. She gave me some great advice. So I really enjoy that aspect. She's a mother, and her kids are older than my kids, obviously. So it's important to have, other women like that, to where you can rely on them to have that conversation, because that they've gone through a similar situation, or they've been there before. So I think that was the best thing I can say about our relationship. She's very, very good and kind to offer that advice, and I took some of it too. So and yeah, like Holly said, she always walked in the door with a smile on her face as well. So
okay, very good. So let's peel another layer off that. What's something that your former colleague does that you cannot do, or something that she does better than you? Amy?
So what's something that she can do but I can't do?
That you can't do, or something she does that you can do but she does it better?
That's a tough one, because I think we're both very qualified. Something that I think I can do that I can do it better, obviously, is the financial background.
No, something she can do better than
something
you.
She can do better. Look, she has great experience in the criminal justice system. That is something that I don't have as much experience, other than being part of the budget team, where we are, trying to look at their budgets and hold them accountable and understand. So I think she definitely has a better understanding of that system, for sure. It's not something necessarily that the council, does crime fighting and stuff like that, we control the purse strings and we hold them accountable. But that is something that is different that I do not have experience in.
Okay. Holly?
Well, I have never worked in the restaurant business, so I'm not never been a line cook, and I can put together a good family meal, but I can't say that I was ever a line cook, so probably subpar in putting on a very excellent meal to my family.
And in public service, government?
In public service,
something Amy does better than you, or something she does that you can't not do?
In public service, I really can't think of one thing that she did better than me, or something I can't do.
Okay. All right. So let's keep going. If he were here today, what would Councilman Giarrusso say is your biggest professional challenge or development need? Not something about district work, but something about the way you work. Holly, 2 minutes.
That's an interesting question. I think I'd almost would love Joe to be here to be able to have that question with him.
I would too. I think it'd be a great conversation.
I know. I need a phone a friend or something. Give him a call this morning. I would say that probably almost my tenacity of reaching back to department heads over and over again. Maybe would say, like, don't reach out every hour. Let's slow it down to maybe every other day or something. But when I want results, I tend to keep pushing and nagging. So maybe wait a bit, maybe wait a day to circle back with somebody.
Okay. All right. Amy?
Okay, so it's what would Joe say that we have to work on, or
you?
Me. Okay.
Yeah. What would be your biggest professional challenge or development need?
I mean, obviously.
What would he say is your professional challenge or development need?
I think the professional challenge is not that I don't have the budget experience, is that we have to navigate through it. And that's going to be the biggest challenge going forward for any council member. I think I don't know that he would say I have a development need. I think he has been a mentor to me, and I've, followed I've learned a lot from him. And, I think it's just making sure that we're following up and being on top of department heads and making sure that we are always focused on the constituents and making sure that we're getting answers to them.
Okay, very good. All right, let's continue with Joe. You both have had numerous campaign appearances, debates, forums, and visits. Whenever I've seen you, listened to you, or watched you, I've heard the words that go something like this. When I was working for Joe, whoever wins, you won't be working with Joe. You will be the District A council member. For one last time today, use the word Joe Giarrusso or the words Joe Giarrusso and tell us how much he's meant to you and your professional growth, and how you will be different from him if the voters put you in office. Amy?
So, I first met Joe when we were through Young Leadership Council. And really it was before I even was on the board with him. He noted that we had a presentation for a project that we were starting, a community project. And he said, you did an excellent job on this. You really need to stick with being in leadership positions because I think you have great potential. And I took those words to heart, and I became a bigger volunteer with the organization. I've joined the board, and then later on I became president. And throughout that time, he was the person I would call for advice. He was the first person I called when I knew that I was going to be president of that organization, because I knew that he had led that organization as well. So that's kind of how, Joe and I formed a friendship and a mentorship. And he knew that after, being involved in YLC, he knew that I really wanted to get more involved in civics and in policy. And so that's part of the reason why when a spot opened up on his staff, he knew that I wanted to get involved in this and potentially look at running for office one day. So he called and said, come work for me, come help me. and he's been a mentor that whole time. And so that's the relationship that Joe and I have. He's been a thoughtful friend, and I've really appreciated everything he's done. He's been, obviously a guiding light and a big portion of my career and how I've gotten to where I am today. The things that I think that I would do differently, and I've talked about this throughout the campaign trail, is be in the neighborhoods more. We were oftentimes, as staff, we were the ones that were out at neighborhood meetings. And of course, Joe was too, but, we were really sticking behind and understanding what people are talking about. So I would, I've made the one campaign promise to be in the district, in every part of the district, once a week, every Friday, with a staff person, making sure that I'm in touch and accessible to residents.
Okay. Holly?
All right, so I think, that one fateful Sunday when Joe Giarrusso called me, we've been friends for years at this point, socially, and he said, I'd like you to come work for me as Constituent Services Director. And I was like, what exactly does that involve? And he's like, I want you to be out in the neighborhoods, meeting with people, hearing what is going on, reaching out, and figuring out how to solve their problems. And that really spoke to me, because that to me is being part of a community. That to me is how government should work for people, is figuring out what they want, having their voices heard. And so Joe and I always share that similar philosophy, that is the number one job of that outreach in being a good elected official, is how do we reach the residents who feel like their voices can't be heard but need to be heard. And so I took that job very seriously. I did not sit behind a desk at work. I was out in the field a lot, meeting people, meeting with neighborhood leaders, and hearing what they wanted, because then you could take their concerns and their voices and bring that back to City Hall, and then write really excellent policy if you can do that and have those two things married. So I fell in love with helping people and being part of their community. And I think that Joe, having made that phone call and making that outreach and asking me to join his team, did change my career path as well. I love District A. Always enjoyed everything to do with government, but it also gave me an opportunity to go back to the DA's office and see what I could do there to help with violent crime. It also gave me the aspiration to go back to school and earn my master's, which I don't think I otherwise would have done. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you much. Now, remember, we're done with Joe now for the balance of the program. Okay. If elected, you will represent a different type of diverse city council district. Whether people realize it or not, the district includes more than 53,000 voters, 55% women, about 69% white voters, about 20% black voters, which I think usually surprises people, and about 11% voters who identify otherwise. The district's about 49% Democratic and 18% Republican. And I think another thing that often surprises people is 32% identify themselves with another party or no party, which I think that's the highest of any of our city council districts. I don't think a district is as diverse in each of those ways. Knowing that, how do you plan to provide the level of service each of these groups deserve and expect, especially when it comes to poor neighborhoods in the district and the more affluent neighborhoods? Amy, you've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, so I think, look, I've had the pleasure to be endorsed by both political parties and people across the lines. I've had, J.P. Morrell and Mandy Landry. So across the board, Senator Cameron Henry. So I think it's shown there's one thing that we can agree on, and it's Amy McCarran for City Council District A. But look, when I have been traveling across the district, knocking on doors, making phone calls, everyone says the same things. They want better basic services, they want their infrastructure, and they want opportunities for their kids at their local NORD centers. So the way to look at that is, and I know that I'm the budget nerd, and that can sometimes seem weird to people, but budgets are how we reflect the views of the community. That is how we get things done for the community. And the way that we understand that is we go into the community and we ask them what they want. For example, when I talk about NORD as far as what kids are wanting to do at these NORD centers, I don't know that, we always make assumptions as adults on what we think kids want instead of actually asking them. And I know that this administration has had, a youth roundtable where that they've, had youth from all across the city, but nobody has ever, as a council member, gotten to each and every NORD center and neighborhood in the city and said, I want to have a youth table with you all. I want you to tell me, what do you want to see at your NORD center? What kind of programming? Because it could be different based on the various neighborhoods. And so I want to make sure that I'm asking the kids, like, what do you want to see? What do you want? What kind of programming do you want? And that's how that information will guide us on how we budget for those things and how we plan to make those things happen.
Okay. Holly?
Yes, District A is a very diverse district, right? We have everything from Lakeview to City Park to Mid-City to Holly Grove, Pigeon Town, Carrollton's, and Uptown. And so, and great things, City Park, Fairgrounds, and Audubon Park. So there's a lot to enjoy in District A. That being said, I think the most important thing what my experience gives me is that I've been to each and every one of those neighborhoods. I've been to every part of District A and have treated District A residents the same in every single area. The most important thing, people want their voices to be heard. And that is my entire background, being out in the community, hearing their voices and hearing what matters to them, taking that back to City Hall and making the policy fit for them. When Sewage and Water Board were handing out high water bills that residents were upset about, that was my project. I went to administrative hearings with every resident who requested our help. And then we're able to write policy based on all of those experiences. So that is what I want to bring to the leadership. I want to bring that experience, that leadership to being the city council member, because I think that is the most important thing, is recognizing every neighborhood, recognizing every voice, but knowing even though we may have different party affiliations, different genders, we have different economic standings, we all want the same things at the end of the day. We want safe streets, we want infrastructure that works, and we want our family to be safe and to be able to live in New Orleans and enjoy each other as a community. And so that's what I find about District A. And that's actually what I love about District A, is that we are one community if we take the time to stop and listen to each other.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, up next, Mayor-elect Helena Moreno said she plans to meet with each district council member to hear what each member considers most important for her district. She was saying that before all of the recent news, and more so now. When she asks you that question, if she says she wants you to tell her the one most important thing that must be done in the district, what will be your answer? And remember, one thing. Holly?
Infrastructure. I didn't
Yeah,
know if
you got 2 minutes.
I didn't know
You got 2
if
minutes.
it's
Sorry,
wrap it
you got
round
2
or not.
minutes.
All right.
No.
Yeah, infrastructure, drainage projects, things of that nature. District A suffers for some of the worst streets that we have in this city. I drive a sedan, and there are certain streets that I just will not drive down, and that should not be that should not be a problem that residents have to face. So infrastructure and getting those projects off the ground and getting them to actually work. And so when I'm going to say it one more time, when I worked for Councilman Druso.
Oh, no.
How about this? When I worked for District A, I'll change it up a little. A lot of the street construction projects were abandoned and lagging, and nothing was going on. And so I created, organized, and attended weekly meetings at 7:30 in the morning, asking the residents to attend, the contractors, Sewage and Water Board, the Department of Public Works, and the mayor's office liaison to go out there and talk about the project, what would happen the next week. And if that transparency led to accountability and got those projects moving again. So we need to have residents feeling that their streets cannot be broken up and then abandoned for any length of time. We need to start a project, finish a project, and give back the quality of life to the residents of District A.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to go with basic services because that's something that I've heard very recently. And what I mean by that is examples like streetlights. The other day I was visiting a constituent in Holly Grove, and she lives across a Nord Park, and we were talking about the streetlights. And there's really only like 2 streetlights. They're not even 2 on her block. And she's like, well, this one isn't working. And when the Nord Center turns off their lights, it's really, really dark. And I said, you know why it takes so long to get it fixed? It's because we have 2 electricians that work for the city. So we have to spend a ton of extra money on an outside contractor. And that outside contractor is actually a Metairie company. No offense to Metairie, but I mean, if we're going to be spending money, we want to spend it on New Orleans. So, and I think Mayor-elect Moreno has talked about this as well, is building a city workforce to bring those basic services back. So if we can partner with our local electrical union, IBEW, on some apprenticeship programs to bring in some of these basic services back, those are the low-hanging fruit that residents will be so appreciative of if that streetlight can get fixed when it's not taking, weeks and months and sometimes even years to get these things fixed. And it's a big part of it is because we don't have the staff. So there are some ways within the budget, even in this budget deficit, that we can cut that expensive outside contracts and bring some of these things back in-house and bring these employees. And it provides economic opportunity. It makes people feel safe to have their lights on and to know that they're going to get fixed and know that, the things that they're paying for in the city, that they're getting those basic services. So, that I think is the number one thing that I would request from her, aside from obviously infrastructure. But that's a lot bigger task. Whereas I feel that, just starting with our streetlights and getting people back in-house, that we can actually make it happen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll paraphrase here. But yesterday, the New Orleans police chief said that she will not relinquish her responsibility to protect and keep this city safe. And that includes using overtime pay as she sees fit. In fact, she said she'll do what she needs to do to get the best job done protecting and serving city residents, even if that means losing her job. If she follows through and spends overtime that she is not authorized to spend, would you call for her resignation or ask that the current or future mayor fire her? Holly.
Is this 2 minutes as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, this budget crisis we're in is exactly for the reasons, Chief Kirkpatrick just stated. There was zero money budgeted in 2025 for overtime, where we spent $27 million in 2024. So how do you go from $27 million spent in 2024 and budget zero in 2025 for the police? This is a safety issue, not only for the residents of New Orleans, but for the officers who serve and protect us every single day. I am absolutely horrified that they're already undermanned, they're already overworked, and not well respected in New Orleans. We don't thank them enough as well. And so we want them to do more. We want them to work harder, and we want them to step up but not pay them. And that is devastating for police officers. That's devastating for the residents of District A. I mean, for citywide, actually.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, that is a tough one. I think we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. I don't think that we can, we obviously don't want to restrict officers' pay, but I think we really need to do an audit to figure out how we got to this situation. And just to be clear, overtime is not a line item in the budget. It's wrapped into personnel costs. And what had been happening in the last few years is that, we had American Rescue Plan Act dollars in there where departments were using that to backfill their overtime, and the CAO's office just allowed them to do that without the council knowing and without the council getting that information. So we have to figure out, what is our overtime policy going forward? And I know that the new CAO, Joe Threat, has said that he's got to restrict it, but with our public safety, we've really got to take a hard look at that and talk to the chief and say, how are you going to make it work? How are we going to allocate those resources, and where are we cutting from? Because we're at a moment right now where it's like there are other departments that also might need this overtime. So we've got to make sure that if we're going to curb it for other departments, that we are not, making other basic services suffer. But we do need to make sure that our officers have the correct resources, and we've got to take a hard look at how she's spending that money and make sure it's used efficiently and resources.
Would you suggest that she resign or be fired if she does this without authorization?
I mean, if she does it without authorization, I might make that recommendation to the new mayor if we can't work out, figure out a solution there.
Okay. All right. I don't see how the city can get out of this fiscal situation without revenue increases. What fees, taxes, or revenue generating ideas would you push or support? Amy?
Okay, so the short-term rentals have a nightly fee, and this money goes towards the general fund. It goes into a special fund where we can use it for enforcement. We have never raised those fees, so that's number one. I think we need to do that. I know it's got to go through the state legislature, but I think these days with our partners in Baton Rouge, I think that's something that we can accomplish. So that's one easy thing that we can do without raising taxes on other residents. So we need to do that. We also need to actually do sales tax audits. We typically, an administration does that often throughout the year. We haven't done that. So we need to make sure that we are actually collecting the accurate revenue from businesses to make sure that we're doing that. And then, we need to figure out how there's a lot of parking tickets that I know that they want to increase, but making sure that we are actually, for example, the Uber settlement that we just never sent a demand letter to. We need to make sure that anybody that owes us money, we need to actually collect it. I think we also need to make it a little bit easier for people to pay their sales taxes. Right now, a lot of people have to go down to City Hall to do this. There should be a system where we can do it online and make it easier for people to actually pay the taxes that were owed. So I'd like to take a look at those things. The other part is safety and permits. It should be a revenue generating department by processing permits to open businesses, to build things. And right now, obviously, that department is a disaster. And I know that the administration is planning on 30% cuts across the board for every department, but that's not the way to do it. We need to be strategic about it. And safety and permits is a revenue generating, and it's something that we can do without raising taxes on residents. So we need to focus on those things and make sure that we are doing that first before we raise people's taxes.
Okay. Holly?
Yeah, first, I do think we absolutely need to, when agencies owe us money, Sewage and Water Board, Uber, we can't wait till we're in a financial crisis to collect that money. So I don't know why we waited until now in a financial crisis to send a demand letter. If people owe us money, we need to get that money now. We're owed that money. That was it for New Orleans. So that's a failure to the residents of New Orleans that those demand letters haven't already been issued. But things I agree, like safety and permits, that should be a revenue generating agency. Instead, people are waiting 6 months to a year to get a permit. So that's stopping contractors from working. That's stopping plumbers from working, electricians from working. That is stopping people from working in New Orleans and having that money put back into commerce. We need to have a small business facilitator as safety and permits, someone who could walk people through the steps and how to encourage them to open up a business in New Orleans instead of saying no all the time, or instead of saying that's not correct, and have no offer no guidance and no help to our residents. Small businesses, owners, that will generate more revenue as well. And we're not doing our level best to help them and promote them and move them forward. Another thing I think is a really big problem in New Orleans is blight. And I'm not talking about poverty blight. I'm talking about abandoned properties, abandoned for 5 to 10 years, that are just sitting there, bringing down the neighborhood property values, being a nuisance to the neighbors. And code enforcement is not doing anything. They levy fines, but they don't collect them. And so how do we get those homeowners to relinquish the houses, either fix them up and put them back into commerce for rental use or put them back into commerce to buy or for home ownership.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay. Your primary duty as the District 8 member will be to serve your district, but you also have a responsibility for the rest of the city. How would you advocate for the district while seeing that neighborhoods in other districts get what they need? Holly?
Yeah, I think we're all part of one community in New Orleans. So I want the other neighborhoods and districts to thrive as much as I want them to thrive in District A. But I also want people to visit District A. Like we said, we have Audubon Park, we have City Park, we have the fairgrounds. But I want to have District A residents visit other neighborhoods as well. So I think, like I said, we're all one community. And if something helps New Orleans East, if someone helps Gentilly, if something helps the business district, that all helps District A as well. So we're one big community, and I think we need to work as a team. I'm a relationship person, so I believe in collaborating and working with people for the greater solution. And I think that that experience in my leadership and working with people will have us all work together on the council to make New Orleans the best place possible for everyone.
Okay. Amy?
Yeah, New Orleans only works when all districts are thriving. So, I want to be a good partner with my other council members to make sure that they are getting the resources that they need for their districts. And I think across the board that we've seen and heard along the campaign trail that from every district, everybody wants those basic services. Everybody wants government to work. Everybody wants a piece of economic development. And so I think when we are coordinated and working together as council members and an administration, that's the best path to getting things done, to getting the basic services. Because once we have that for residents, then we're able to attract the economic development pieces that every single district needs, and some more than others. And so, I think the way that we need to work together, especially going forward, is, on the front end of this budget process, the council is not privy to information on how the administration plans the budget. We just get it presented on October 1st. And so I think a good way for all of the district council members to really understand where each other's needs are is working on the front end with the administration on that planning process, that we are all having a seat at the table to say, well, these are the priorities of our districts. How do we work together to reflect that in the budget that's presented to the council? And I think that's, number one key, because like I said in the beginning, budgets reflect the needs and wants of the community. And so if we are working together with the other council members and the administration on the front end of planning that budget, then we can truly work together on a plan to make New Orleans and our residents thrive.
Okay, very good. Okay, now let me ask you each a question just for you. All right, so Amy, you were the budget point person in the District A office. You were charged with knowing the budget inside out, identifying areas of financial need, determining how to fund projects, being a go-to watchdog, and helping to figure out how the city can best spend the money wisely. If you agree with the way I described that, how did you miss such a financial disaster coming?
Yeah. I don't think that we missed anything. Okay. I think that the administration provides monthly reports to us that and I went back and looked at the last 3 years because I thought the same thing. I was like, have I missed something? Have I guided, Councilmember Giarrusso with something? Oh. Have I guided council people that in certain offices on things? And the fact is, it's just, I have not, we haven't missed anything. And if you go back, we work with the administration on passing these budgets. And if you look at all of the data and the details that we have been given, we passed a balanced budget. And in January and February, Council Member Thomas asked, the CAO, he said, are we going to have cuts? Are we okay? Like, what are we doing here? And they said no. And the information that we were given reflected that. And so I don't believe that we have missed something. I think there has been a huge breakdown in communication between the CAO's office, the Department of Finance, which you saw if you went back in January, February, even April, there was a disconnect there. So I don't know, where that was coming from, but the council was not privy to that information. So I don't think that we missed anything, but it is clear that we need better oversight. And this is something that I've suggested. I suggested it today, working together going forward on building the budget together ahead of time, ahead of that October deadline that we have to be presented with the budget. And that's how we create better transparency around it by locking budgets. That's something that's going to be that Council President Morrell has just introduced that. Okay.
Okay. Okay, Holly. You were charged with leading constituent services in the district office on any given day. Those in constituent services in any city council office. Here's a lot about problems. You aim to fix as many as you can. Yet we continue to see so many potholes, so much crumbling infrastructure, too many drainage problems. Why didn't more get done in District A when you were the constituent services point person?
I mean, I think the departments, of course, we don't control the departments as constituent services. We can nag them, we can beg them, we can plead with them, we can report to them, and we can work with them. And that's mainly what I tried to do, is work with the departments to get these things done for the residents. But look, if I had my own pothole filler truck, I would have been out on the weekends filling up them as well. I didn't have those resources. But what I did have was the know-how and the will to keep following up with people. I didn't accept we can't do that, or we don't have the time, or we don't have the resources. I followed up until it got done, until the constituents were fulfilled. I took that very seriously. And then, as part of this platform, though, what I'm working on is being a transparent, smart city. How do people who report to 311 get their basic city services delivered, and how to get them fixed? And I think by becoming a transparent, smart city, we can get that done.
Okay, we're going to go to a couple of rapid-fire questions and close. Mayor-elect Helena Moreno is scheduled to be sworn in on January 12th. She'll need a team to work with her to get things done. But we've got a huge budget problem. Do you support giving the mayor specific office budget and salary caps for department heads? Only one word answer, yes or no. Holly?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
There are 3 bond measures on the November 15th. Do you support all 3? Amy?
Yes.
Holly?
Yes.
Okay. Your district has business, economic, and housing needs. Many would argue that your district has a great potential, but also District E has much more potential across the city. Would you be willing to sacrifice some District A needs to help the growth of the city in District E? Holly?
No.
Amy?
It depends.
One word.
Depends.
Okay. All right. So let's go to closing comments. You'll each have 2 minutes. So let's see, who went first? You went first. So
Yes. Thank you so much again, Will, for having us on here. Look, I'm going to leave you with this. I know that things seem, crazy, and that our issues are not able to be solved, but I truly believe that they are solvable. And it's going to take electing a leader on the council that understands how to use the tools of the council, that understands the budget, that has over a decade of financial experience, something that council members currently on the council do not have. There is no one with financial experience on the current council. And that's what I will bring to the table. I believe that we need somebody that has the independence, the tenacity, and someone who's going to work tirelessly 24/7 to get this done. And the council needs me as a budget expert to come in and help fix this financial crisis and get our city services back on track. Somebody that can be strategic, that understands on day one what the budget looks like, and that it reflects the community, the needs of the community. And that is the main thing, that how budgets are made. So I truly believe that I'm the right person for this position. And I thank you again for having us. Like you said, November 1st starts early voting through the 8th, and then November 15th is election day, and I'm asking for your vote. I'm number 35 on your ballot, and I'm Amy McCarran. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Holly.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Will, and thank you, WBOK, for having us today. And this election isn't about who claims to be a budget expert. It's about who will protect the taxpayers from this financial disaster. And right now, our city is facing a budget deficit so severe that payroll has been in question and basic city services are at risk. So let's be clear about how we got here. Budgeted zero for NOPD overtime in 2025, even though the city spent $27 million in 2024. They relied on overly optimistic revenue projections that never materialized. And I'm sorry, but City Council did ignore multiple warning signs, including a BGR report issued in April of 2025. I mean, I spoke to someone on the BGR board yesterday, and they said we absolutely sounded the alarm bells. So there were warnings, and these are preventable mistakes. The job of the council, especially those advising on the budget, is to question the numbers, verify assumptions, and protect the public from exactly this outcome. Not just say, we didn't know. That is your job to know. That is your job to advise. That is your job to question. So I bring 14 years of experience in public service. Whether that's addressing drainage projects or crime concerns or shutting down problem properties and businesses. And I've delivered the results because I never forget who I serve. And that is the residents of District A, the residents of New Orleans. So my promise is simple. I will show up, I will listen, and I will fix the problem. I will make the city's budget fully transparent so every resident can see where the tax dollars are going in real time. So if you want an accessible, responsible, and results-driven candidate, then I am your person. I'm Holly Friedman, running for City Council District A. Thank you.
All right, fabulous. Well, thank you both for coming in and spending some time with us. Thank you for taking the questions seriously. Hopefully, some of them were a little different from what you've heard before, and some of them were fun, and of course, some of them were quite serious, especially with the fiscal issues. Wish you both luck on the campaign. Early voting, folks, November 1 ends November 8th. The election is November 15th. This is WBOK, 1230 a.m., what New Orleans is talking about all day long.